Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Jesus is Messiah, where we dive deep into biblical prophecies and their fulfillment in Jesus of Nazareth. If you enjoy this content, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Today, we're exploring the book of Zechariah, focusing on how his prophecies converge on Jesus of Nazareth as both a humble king-priest and a powerful ruler to come. Let's get started. Have you ever read a story so perfectly plotted that the ending makes every single detail from the beginning suddenly click into place? It's that stunning aha moment when you realize the author had it all planned from the start. Today, we're diving into a book of the Old Testament that feels just like that. A prophetic masterpiece written over 500 years before Christ. It's the book of Zechariah. And hidden within its chapters is a stunningly detailed portrait of the Messiah. It's a picture of two halves, a humble, suffering servant and a victorious, conquering king. The question Zechariah leaves us with is, who could possibly be both? Let's start with the first portrait, the humble king. In chapter 9, Zechariah gives us one of the most famous messianic prophecies. He tells the people of Jerusalem to rejoice greatly because their king is coming to them. But he's not what you'd expect. He isn't riding a war horse, breathing fire and conquest. No, Zechariah says he is righteous and having salvation, yet he is humble, riding on a donkey. Centuries later, the Gospels record Jesus deliberately fulfilling this very sign as he enters Jerusalem during his final week. It was a clear, symbolic statement. I am the king Zechariah spoke of, but my kingdom doesn't start with a sword, but the humility deepens into suffering. Zechariah sketches a heartbreaking picture of a true shepherd rejected by his own flock. In chapter 11, the prophet, playing the role of this shepherd, asks for his wages. He's paid 30 pieces of silver, the price of a gored slave. In a moment of divine disgust, God tells him to throw this insulting wage to the potter. Again, the Gospels echo this with chilling precision. Judas betrays Jesus for exactly 30 pieces of silver. Overcome with guilt, he throws the money back into the temple, and the priests use it to buy a potter's field. The details are so specific, it's almost unbelievable. The rejection culminates in violence. God says through the prophet, "Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered." Jesus quotes this very line right before his arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane, predicting that his disciples would abandon him. And they did. Finally, and most powerfully, Zechariah speaks of a piercing. In chapter 12, God says a day is coming when the people of Jerusalem will look on me, the one they have pierced, and they will mourn for him as one mourns for an only child. A humble king on a donkey, betrayed for the price of a slave, a shepherd struck down, his followers scattered, a pierced figure. This is Zechariah's first portrait. It's a Messiah who comes in weakness and is rejected. Now, this is where the plot thickens dramatically. There's a crucial piece of context we can't ignore, a ticking clock set by another prophet, Daniel. Daniel's prophecies indicated that the Messiah had to come and be cut off before the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. History tells us that Roman armies leveled that temple in the year 70 AD. This means any legitimate messianic candidate had to live and die before that date. This single fact narrows the field of candidates to almost zero. The historical window was closing. So, if the story ended with a rejected, pierced Messiah before 70 AD, it would be a tragedy. But Zechariah tells us that's only Act 1. This is where the second portrait emerges, the victorious king. Zechariah prophesies a great reversal. The very people who pierced their Messiah will one day recognize him. That verse, "They will look on me, the one they have pierced," is followed by an outpouring of national mourning. It's the ultimate aha moment in human history. It's the sound of a people realizing it was him, he was right in front of us, and we missed him. And what follows this recognition? Not judgment, but grace. Zechariah says that on that day, a fountain will be opened to cleanse them from sin and impurity. The piercing wasn't just an act of violence, It was the very act that would open the way for healing and forgiveness. Then, Zechariah's vision explodes onto a global scale. The Messiah doesn't remain a rejected figure. He returns in power. In chapter 14, we see his feet standing on the Mount of Olives, the very hill from which Jesus ascended. There's a great battle, but this time the Lord is victorious. He is declared king over the whole earth. And in this new kingdom, the nations of the world don't just recognize Israel, they recognize Israel's God. Zechariah says the survivors from all nations will go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord Almighty. The blessing promised to Abraham, that through him all nations would be blessed, finally finds its ultimate fulfillment. So who could possibly fill this massive office? A figure who had to appear before the Second Temple fell. A figure so profoundly rejected by his own people that their future recognition of him would be a world-altering event. A figure who was literally pierced. A humble servant who is also the king of the universe. Like a good movie, you can't just introduce a new main character at the end. The hero of the final act has to be the same one from the first. The convergence is staggering. All these vectors of prophecy, written across different centuries by different authors. The humble king, the 30 pieces of silver, the struck shepherd, the pierced one, the Second Temple timeline, the victorious return, and the worship of the nations. They all converge on one person in history, Jesus of Nazareth. It's a narrative arc so vast and intricate, no human author could have orchestrated it. It testifies to a divine providence, scripting history to reveal its hero. Zechariah didn't just write down prophecies. He painted a two-part portrait of a king who would save the world through humility and redeem it in glory. And in Jesus, we see that portrait come to life. If you like this content, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Help us spread this content.